It's just an intelligent decision to put all your pre-orders in at Dorkside Toys.
Okay, people, welcome back to another Fwoosh overview. Today, let's take a look at the Hasbro Star Wars Black Series Tech, Aurra Sing, and Koska Reeves. Now, I usually do waves together, but I found Lando and Zero at Walmart a month or so back, and I couldn't help myself. I had to review them. But now I'm coming back around since I finally got the rest of the assortment. It's not an excuse to spread out playing with new Star Wars figures since they seem to be so few and far between these days. At least when it comes to individual characters with unique sculpting. Oh, well, I guess Koska does reuse a body, but she's part of this wave. So, more the merrier. Looking at the packages, what we're used to with the Black Series at this point, some black, some darker black, which I guess lighter black is gray, isn't it? I always mess that up. Big window showing you most of what you're getting in the package. Then there's the color coding for the movie or show that the character comes from. Tick is from the Bad Batch, gets a darker red. Koska is, of course, from the Mandalorian. There's that mustard color. But Aurra kind of threw me off. I would have expected her to be listed as Episode 1, but they put Clone Wars with that bright yellow, which makes sense. She did have a lot more appearances than the, was it 1 second, 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds that she appeared in Episode 1? On the side, we get artwork for the characters standing in front of their individual color fields. On the back, those pictures again, bios for each character. On the other side, just some Star Wars Black Series logo, a little bit of splash of color, more windows up top to let that light shine in. On bottom, legalese, barcodes, but let's get these open and see what's going on here, starting with Koska. Because while she is a unique character, she does have a lot of body reuse. So it's not as surprising, you know. I don't get me wrong, I love adding to the Mandalorian shelf, but out of these three, I feel like she's the most predictable. Oh, and adding a little bit more Fwoosh blue to the Star Wars shelf. Like I mentioned, the body is reuse of Bo-Katan, which does work mostly. I think in the show, a lot of their armor and costume matched. I do like how Koska's does have a little bit more wear and tear. The blue allows for some blast mark and some silver and some paint scuffing, and yeah, I just like the look of it better. Same shoulder pad with the tampos on it. The blue on the gauntlets, Koska is slightly darker, and I feel like the dirtiness, the tampo on there, it's identical, I think. Slightly different on this side, but again, same layout. Almost like they thinned it out here and here just to make it not exactly the same. About the same with the silvers and copper, though. Gonna say the same about the legs. Nearly identical, just different shades of color. And they moved the dirt around a little bit, or lightened it up in places. But this is where the reuse doesn't work, because in the show, Koska had regular boots. She didn't have armor pads down here on the shins. I do like there's slightly more red to the leather part here on Koska. It just adds a bit more contrast. Hasbro did modify the belt though by removing the left holster. Otherwise, same colors, same paints, same everything. Except on Bo-Katan, they painted this buckle back here where the holster attaches to the belt. Didn't do that on Koska. And then before getting them in hand, I assumed the helmets were the same, but Koska's is actually bigger. Once we get the helmet off, you'll see that the hair sticks up a little bit more. I don't know if that was the determining factor here, or if her helmet is actually bigger in the show. But there's also a different detail over here on the left side. In fact, removing that, I think this is the greatest part of this figure. Great likeness. You can definitely see Sasha Banks here, and they nailed that cross braid forehead thing. But then there's braids up on top that kind of causes slight mohawkishness. I don't know, Bo-Katan's hair does stick up, but not as much. Then like we've been seeing with the Star Wars photo reel, very shiny. I may have to hit that with some dull coat. All that braid work comes around to the back to this ponytail that is a softer piece. It's the head here that really sets it apart, and I'm going to come back to it. The silver and dirt on the chest piece. I wish there was more of this on the other parts of the armor just to make them pop too. Going over articulation, there is a dumbbell joint, I believe, at the top of the neck with a ball joint at the bottom. And that collar piece is softer, so it doesn't hold it back as much as you think it does. Looks up, looks down. Well, it does kick back just a little bit in both positions. Oh, but lots of tilt. Swivel. This whole torso piece seems to be some kind of overlay because there is a butterfly joint way down in there. Because of how deep it is, it doesn't get a lot of front to back, but there is slight movement there. Pin going out to the shoulder rotates all the way around. Hinge at the shoulder comes up to about right there. Hinge and swivel at the elbow, barely past 90. Rotates. Rotation at the wrist. Trigger finger hand, up and down hinge. Dual wield means the left goes up and down too. Nice. Either ball joint or dumbbell at the mid-torso, hidden by the armor. Gets a little hula hoop. Ball coming out to the hip, comes forward, back, out. Not bad. Swivel at the thigh, and notice this armor plate is part of the bottom, and Oh, I like that. Hinge and swivel at the knee does come past 90. Rotates. Hinge at the ankle goes back, forward, front-facing pin for rocker. For accessories, we already talked about the helmet. It works nicely, sits over the head. The rangefinder, articulated on a pin going into the helmet, does come down. Comes with 2 of these blasters. Again, reuse directly from Bo-Katan, but that works. They're very Mandalorian. Fits perfectly in the hand. But 2 guns, 1 holster, which I'm not going to complain about. Oh no, they gave me an extra gun. And then there is the jetpack. Again, reuse from Bo-Katan. Less blue used here, and then doesn't have silver. I don't know if that's accurate to Koska's jetpack in the show, but it does differentiate the 2. And that just plugs in the back. Looks great. Mandalorian. Koska stands at about 5 9/16 to the top of her braids, which does work with the Bo-Katan reuse. I think Katie Sackhoff is 5'6", Sasha Banks is 5'5". This works when you consider relative scale on the shelf. Next up, let's take a look at tech. Star Wars Black Series going through the bottom. And I already know I'm gonna have a problem with this, but I think it's the same problem everyone has, so it's not a surprise. Careful with the antenna sticking through the tray. You don't want to rip forward. And now it makes sense why Tech is way later than Hunter and Crosshair, because Hunter and Crosshair can reuse parts. And then Wrecker was an all-new sculpt, but a deluxe release since he was a bigger character. Tech, completely unique sculpt. Everything is new as far as I can tell, which was absolutely needed because of his look in the show. The chest is actually a rubbery overlay, so it gets out of the way of articulation. I'd like to know what that shirt looks like under there, because there's a seam line and some bagginess to it here at the bottom. And then up at the top, oh, there's your Stormtrooper neck and a little bit more shirt showing. That comes out to shoulder pads that are rubbery attached at the bottom that they've been doing lately to get out of the way of articulation. The bicep armor on the right side has this leathery pouch. Is this room for more stuff, more tools? Then on the left side, looking closer, I think that's a pouch too, but it seems unpainted. The forearm has this nice detail work here on the outside, sticking up and out, and then of course the right. It's very asymmetrical. Kind of a cog right there of some kind, but then the left side's clean. The feet, very Stormtrooper-y, just plain boot, but then you get double layered armor, or this extra detail to the shin armor. More pouches. The left, different, double strapped, holding up whatever is here. Is this tool sticking out the top? Ah, there we go. Okay, the knee pads are symmetrical left to right. And right above the knee is the strap holding on, well, in real life, it would be holding on this pad up on the thigh. Big old pouch. Of course, there's going to be more gadgets and gizmos in there. Going up to a belt that has, oh, there's the traditional trooper look to a pouch, and that comes around to more pouches, more leather, all the way to this side, and then the tools hanging. And I didn't pull these out just to show that, oh man, those are removable. It's just a cool little addition there. It is so integrated into the design that you'd almost think that's part of the figure, which it is, but then you can take them out if you want to. Is that a skull tampo right there? Just very, very tiny. Maybe off to the side just a little bit, but it does its job. Then there is the head. Again, shiny, like a lot of the other photoreal Star Wars lately, but very nicely done. I know personal preference comes into play here, but I like that they take the cartoon characters and make them more realistic to fit in with the other characters on the shelf. That way it's just one big display. But one of the big gripes here is that he doesn't have his goggles. 99% of the time he has his goggles that integrate into the helmet. So I can understand why the goggles weren't molded onto here. They are a part of the helmet. I don't understand why they couldn't have been a separate piece to put on here, or make an alternate head, one with the helmet, where just pop it off the neck, and then have another head that has the goggles. Although this new dumbbell joint is not very pop friendly. I also understand that there was a budget here, especially with an all new sculpt for this figure, so I guess that just fell to the wayside, or that's going to be a separate release down the road. Going over articulation, again, dumbbell top of the neck, ball joint at the bottom, slightly up, more down. Amazing when it comes to tilt. Swivel. Butterfly joint at the shoulder, hidden by, or well, at least disguised by the overlay piece. Very nice range forward and back. Beyond that is a pin into the shoulder, rotates all the way around. Hinge at the shoulder. Again, the shoulder pad is rubbery, gets up and over, goes up to there. Hinge and swivel elbow comes up past 90. Back and forth. Swivel at the wrist. Trigger finger hinges up and down. Weapon weight holding hand goes in and out. Ball joint or dumbbell at the mid-torso. Again, hidden by this overlay. It goes back back really far, forward some, more tilt though, all around, rotation. Ball coming out to the hip, comes up to there, back, out. That sculpted piece right there hits the hip, so it goes about that far. Rotation at the thigh, and like Koska, there's that pad that rides up and over. Hinges swivel at the knee. Oh, well, that's further than I thought it'd go. The knee pad is actually a separate piece with the strap coming up and around, but I wouldn't push too hard because that has a tendency to pinch. And then that rotates. Hinge at the ankle, go, oh, all the way back. Forward, runs into the armor, front-facing pin for rocker. For accessories, we already talked about the helmet, but here it is again, more splash of red, some darker colors here and there, some gray. The skull on the side is tampoed. The antenna sticking up are rubbery, so you're not going to break those off. And then the goggles, over the goggles, that rotates out here on those earpieces. Perfect world, this would be some kind of clear piece, and I've even seen people drilling these out and replacing that with a clear material. That way you can see the eyes under the helmet. And I've said this about the other Bad Batch characters, the helmet looks big because you're putting it on over a head, but I'm slowly coming around to it. Plus, it gives it that slight animated feel. Again, tools on the belt are separate, so I'm calling those accessories. Got a hammer of some kind, whatever this is. This is just a single stick piece with a knob sticking off. I think we've seen this blaster with either Hunter or somebody else, but just a basic Star Wars pistol. No holster, but it works perfectly in the trigger finger hand. Finally, there's Tech's backpack. Has some canisters on the side, some nice little techie details, and I've avoided saying techie details this whole time, so cut me some slack. The splash of red again to tie it into the rest of the armor, and then the antenna, not as soft as the helmet, but they flex. And I like that these guys haven't had just the round pegs where it rotates. You put these in, the T-shape keeps it in place. And it does add a little weight to the back, but standing straight up and down, I haven't had any problems of him tipping back. Get up on your feet. Yeah, look at that. Tech stands at about, well, almost exactly 6 inches tall to the top of the helmet, and then about 6 3/16 to the top of the antenna. And that means he works great with the rest of the Bad Batch we've gotten so far. In fact, he clocks a little shorter than the rest, again, tying into that slightly smaller stature. Because Tech does machines. Is that why he's my favorite? He's the Donatello of the Bad Batch. And then finally, we're going to open up Aurra Sing, who I refuse to believe was taken out by a simple push from Beckett. We didn't see it, so it didn't happen. And as weird as this sounds, Aurra is the one I've been looking forward to the most. I've actually picked up a couple of the 3 3/4 inch over the years. I've hunted down several base bodies for customs that I never finished. And hell, man, my middle daughter's name is Aurra, mostly based on 2 seconds of screen time. I don't know what it is. It's just something about this design. It appeals to me. And Hasbro's done a great job translating that into action figure form. I have a couple of gripes. We'll get to that. But visually, just standing here, this is Aurra Sing. Have the cylinders up here on her little vest along with whatever's in this pocket. And look at the back. It has extra stuff hanging off. I feel like this should come out, but it's all one molded piece. That's how good it looks, sculpt and paint-wise. The holster rig is fantastic too. It crosses over, has a buckle painted on. These are fake chains, but they're soft. They get out of the way. There's a leathery texture to the holsters coming down to the bands around the legs. Plain boots, but has some wrinkles in them, slight texture. It does a good job of matching up to here and then up to here. They captured her proportions, and I think for the most part, it's just long fingers. Otherwise, it's female form. But those long fingers do a lot to make it seem, well, on top of the white skin tone, to make her seem more alien. The wrap around here is sculpted on along with the wrist wraps. Little bit of wrinkle here and there to make it look like costume, especially here on the front. You can see where it's stretched very, very tight over the abs. The top of the bodysuit even has a sculpted seam. Then the head seals the deal. She has that I don't give a damn look on her face. The shading around the eyes matching up nicely with the color of the lips. The way the eyes are painted on or photoreeled, it just completely works. To offset the plainness of the face, of the head, this ponytail sticking up and out, brownish reddish hair with, okay, this may be a little bit heavy, this highlight on the back, but it does its job. Plus on the inside, there's the braids and the beads, and those are all painted and stick out whenever you catch those in the background. And then tying that ponytail is more orange that matches the bodysuit. Yeah, I love it. What I don't love is the use of 45-degree hips. Hasbro, we've talked about this. The last time we saw this was with Padme, and at first I thought, well, maybe that's reuse, but no, it's not. Padme doesn't have the same midsection, and then she actually has pants sculpted on the top there. Aurra doesn't have pants. She has a full bodysuit on. You go to bring the leg up at the hip and it twists to the outside. Now that is not a huge deal. You can just do this and then turn it at the thigh swivel and you have the leg forward. For some reason, that extra step is infuriating. From an engineering standpoint, I understand why they did it. Aurra is in a skin-tight bodysuit. If her legs were further apart, like it probably would be with horizontal pins, it would look odd. Plus it'd make her hips stick out a little bit further, even though they're hidden by the holsters. So I get why. I just don't like it. Maybe that's why there's double knees, to distract us or to balance things out. I hate the hips, but I love the knees. Also, the antenna out of the head is a little bit thick. I may replace that with a piece of wire or something. But something to watch out for if you do see her at the store is the positioning of that antenna. Yes, I bought two. Don't judge me. On the first one I opened, it's straight up and down, which is a little bit off from what we see in her appearance in 2 seconds of the Phantom Menace. It's not bent or anything, that's just how it is. Also on this one I just opened, there is this black scuff. I don't know if it's in the plastic or if it's paint, but my first one doesn't have that. So again, case by case. With my second one, I'm gonna do the black bodysuit and the extra eyeliner, or well, the whole makeup thing. But now that I've said it out loud, that is such an easy repaint, and it is Hasbro. Should we expect that at some point? Going over articulation, dumbbell joint at the top of the neck, and the ponytail is kind of thick. You go to look up, well, kinda, but it kicks back down. Down, ooh, tilt. Swivel, shoulder is pegged into the torso, rotates all the way around. Hinge at the shoulder comes up to 90. Hinge and swivel at the elbow, past 90. In and out, swivel, and then weapon wielding hand, so up and down hinge. Ball dumbbell, something at the mid-torso, gets around and twists. We talked about the hips, very, very tight, so be careful out of the package. Ball coming down at 45. You have to kind of rotate up, back, out. Rig is kind of soft, tied down here. Not great. Swivel at the thigh. Double knee comes all the way up. When was the last time you saw a Star Wars figure do that? Swivel at the top of the boot. Hinge at the ankle goes all the way back. Forward, about right there. Front facing pin for rocker. For accessories, Aurra comes with her personalized blasters, and I say that because, check it out, there's 2 trigger guards. That's because she has 2 trigger fingers in there. That's awesome. But they also fit nicely into the holsters. And then there is her rifle, and this crazy thing. It's just cast in a gray plastic with a little bit of brown painted down here. Huge scope. And then this rod, or whatever this is, along the barrel, just super long. And because of the articulation and such, it's a little bit difficult to get into firing poses, but you can get close. Maybe not all the way, but close. And then of course it comes with a strap. There's a groove sculpted in there where you put the, well, the kind of clip. It's rubbery. It's not a super tight hold, but it does clip on there. What I've been doing is trying to take one side and rotate that into the space between the pieces of plastic here. And then down here is another groove sculpted on, clamps on there. With the antenna and the ponytail and her arms and such, it's kind of tough to put this on her this way. So what you want to do is feed the legs through, go over the shoulder, miss the ponytail, put it like that. Aurra stands at about 5 3/4 to the top of her head, and then 6 1/4 to the top of the antenna, which fits right in with other characters like Beckett and then the deluxe Return of the Jedi Boba Fett. So at the end of the day, it is 3 excellent 1/12 scale Star Wars figures to add to my display, and that's always a good time. Koska Reeves' action figure is not as agile as she is in real life, but I'm adding to the Mandalorian shelf. I can't complain about that. I can complain about the shins being totally inaccurate, but ooh, do I need to do some customizing? Also love filling out the ranks of the Bad Batch. Plus Tech's overall look skews away from his brothers in the Bad Batch, and that just makes everything visually interesting. So getting in an action figure form, ooh. But then there's Aurra Sing. Again, been waiting for this figure forever, and it doesn't disappoint. Although I will gripe some more about the hips. That shouldn't happen. I get it, but I don't have to like it. But all my figures are standing in the display. In that aspect, ooh, she may go front and center of the bounty hunters. Yes, in front of Boba Fett too. A lot of white now that I'm looking at it, but there's reds and there's blues and there's grays. Along with Lando and Zero, yeah, this is a nice assortment. There's a little something from everywhere that you can pick and choose from if you have preferences. Now, besides repaints, what's next, Hasbro? If you enjoyed the review, comment, like, subscribe. Much, much love to the plus. If you're interested in seeing videos early or in a position to help out the channel, patreon.com, wherever you may be watching this. I'll always catch you on the Fwoosh. In fact, physically bringing in Lando and Zero, it's not until now that I realized that there are 2 representations from the Mandalorian show. Then there's animated series The Bad Batch, and they tell you animated series with Aurra, but again, I associate her with episode 1. Then Lando is original trilogy. Good looking group.